Over the wine dark sea, your voice like a song, like a bell, has been rung. About 6 months ago, I went and had a little adventure. I got on a plane and I flew right across the world to Europe. And I sang in the streets and I told stories where I could, in the Netherlands, in the UK, in Ireland. And most days I spoke on the phone to my wife Maria. And the thing that we talked about mostly was our dog, Keisha. Well, when I say she was our dog, she was more my dog. Originally, it was supposed to be my son's dog. And we went off to the pet shop and he said, I want that little dog over there. And I said, no, we need a dog that's going to take us for long walks in the forest. That little dog over there is not going to do that. We need that dog there. What do you want to call her? And so he named her Keisha. But really, she was my dog. I chose her and she took me for walks more than anyone else. And for the most part, I looked after her and fed her and so on. And she was a significant part of our household, quite a personality in a sort of eccentric, sensitive way. She was a very sensitive animal. She wanted lots of love, huge buckets of love, but she gave lots of love to me. She wasn't so friendly to other little dogs, or even to people sometimes. She could be quite unpleasant, quite disgusting too, at odd moments, as dogs sometimes are. And when things were going badly for me, things were going badly for her. Particularly a couple of years ago, I was having a great deal of trouble with work, and it was undoing me psychologically, and I wasn't going for walks, and she suffered. She eventually, she was getting old by this, developed diabetes, eating too much, not enough exercise, and from her diabetes came blindness. So she was in a bad way when I left. Daily injections. We were still taking her for walks in the forest, stumbling ones. But on the day that I left, she sat by the window and cried. Somehow she had got hold of the fact that I was going away for a long time. She'd seen me go away before for short periods and it hadn't bothered her. But she seemed to sense that this was going to be a major departure, and she was inconsolable. My son had to drag her away from the window to the back of the house to feed her. And my conversations with my wife were pretty downheartening most days. Although she stopped crying and rallied a bit, her health got worse and worse. Until eventually, about halfway through the journey, I asked myself, well, maybe I should go home. Things were looking pretty bad for her. But it would be difficult from a financial point of view to change the ticket. It would be expensive. I hadn't got to Ireland, and Ireland was the real goal of the journey. was the land of my ancestors. It's the music I love and I like to sing. And I hadn't got there yet, and I wanted to get there. And besides, I wondered how much difference would it make. And so I continued with my journey. And there were good times in that journey, nothing life-changing. But I did get a lot healthier. I walked more, I ate less, I drank less, I lost weight. And I returned a much healthier person than I left. But of course, when I returned to a more complex situation. There'd been great grief at home. My wife had all the pain of the decisions about the dog. And the children had been very distressed, and I'd escaped most of that, although I felt the great sense of grief when she died. But my wife arranged for the dog to be cremated and had the ashes stored to be dealt with when I returned. And so when I returned, I lost that health that I'd gained. I ate more, I drank more, I put on the weight. And my singing went a bit astray. Things were not altogether great. And about that time, I started reading the Mahabharata. This was a project by the Storytelling Guild of Victoria, and I was sort of following it in a small way. And I was particularly struck by one of the stories right at the end of the Mahabharata. Now, the Mahabharata, for those who don't know, is the story of the Pandava brothers, 5 brothers, all children of the gods, who were rulers at times. At times they were outcasts, at times they were pilgrims. They were involved in a terrible war, and they were wise and just rulers. And whether things were up or whether things were down, they were, for the most part, virtuous, just, aware of their duty, aware of their responsibility to other people. They had compassion for other people. They were decent in their dealings. And after the war, and after they'd won their kingdom back and ruled for many years, they decided to go for a walk in the mountains and look for a path to heaven. But as they walked, small flaws in their character, little bits of pride and arrogance revealed themselves. And when they revealed themselves, one of them would go plummeting down a crevasse, until there was only one left, Yudhistira, the oldest of the brothers, the most fair-minded, the most just, the most meticulous in his performance of his duties, scrupulous in his compassion for others. And Yudhistira alone managed to keep walking, looking for a path to heaven. Until one day, the god Indra came down to Yudhistira in a chariot and said, "Okay, Yudhistira, you've made the grade. Hop on, we're off to heaven." And Yudhistira was pleased to be on his way to heaven. He had had a pretty tough time, and he was pretty exhausted by life, and he thought, no, time for me to put my feet up. And the only thing was he had a dog with him. When all his brothers and their wife, there was one wife, 5 brothers, it was an unusual thing, when they had all fallen by the wayside, a dog became his companion on the last part of his journey, and he said, "Can I bring this dog with me?" And Indra says, "No, sorry, no dogs in heaven." And Yudhistira says, but he's been my faithful companion, a true and loving friend. I can't desert this dog. And Indra says, "Well, you got a choice. No God, no dogs. No gods, no dogs in heaven. It's up to you." And Yudhistira says, "Oh, okay, thank you for your kind offer, but I'm going to stay with my old mate here." And Indra took off back into heaven. Now, as it happened, the dog was an incarnation of the god Dharma. And this was just a little test which Yudhistira had passed with flying colours, and off he went into heaven anyway. But I was very struck by the way the details of this story, this chariot of the gods being the aeroplane I took off to Europe in, how similar they were, and the choice that Yudhistira was given. He chose one thing, I chose another. And this, it seemed to come screaming down the centuries, I mean, sort of point out some of the moral qualities of my decision not to return. And when I thought about it, I was pretty much a moral midget next to Yudhistira. And when I saw that clearly, it also showed to me the grief that I was feeling every time I came to the house. I was expecting something that wasn't there, and I had to keep readjusting to that fact. Or when I went for a walk out in the forest and I was looking for the lead but it wasn't there, or walking down an aisle, I do most of the shopping. I wasn't buying dog food anymore. And when this realisation came to me, I was able to express these things to my family, my confusion of grief and guilt. And in a little ceremony we had where we spread the ashes of Keisha in our backyard where she'd spent a lot of time, and also out in the forest track where she liked to go for her runs. She loved walks, even the stumbling walks that she had when she was blind. And although I don't think I'm cured of the complexity of life, it kind of set me going in the right direction. Although yesterday I was walking in the mountains, well, I was walking up a ladder in the kitchen to clean the muck off the ceiling. And I went a step higher and the ladder bent, and I went crashing down the ladder on top of my foot caught in one of the rungs. I've since had a few stitches. It's a great big cut on one of my toes, and I find out in a couple of days whether my toe is broken, which is why I'm sitting here with my feet up.